What's going on, guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be looking at the best travel credit cards. Recently, both of my go-to travel credit cards have been discontinued, which has caused a bit of a change up in the travel credit card market. So because of all these changes, I thought I'd go through and break down the best travel credit cards to get in 2020. So as always, just as a quick disclaimer, I'm just giving my opinions and thoughts, and in no way is this financial advice. And you should always do your own research before signing up for anything. Now before we get into it, if you haven't already, make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below and click that bell so you never miss a video. But now, let's get into it. Okay, so if you don't know what a travel credit card is, it's basically a dedicated credit card designed to be used when you're overseas. And the reason that they're needed is because standard credit and debit cards in the UK usually have additional high fees for when using them abroad, which isn't ideal because it means every time you're on holiday and you buy something, you'll be charged a transaction fee which just adds to the price of whatever it is you're buying. So this is basically why you need a specific travel credit card, because they're designed to be used when overseas, so you won't incur these same transaction fees, and you'll actually get a more cost-effective exchange rate. So to put it simply, by having a specific travel credit card, it's just going to save you money in the long run. Now a travel credit card isn't your only option. There are other ways in which you can get around these transaction fees, so in the form of prepaid cards or mobile banks. Now I've got a video comparing the top mobile banks out there, so I'll leave that in the description for you to watch if credit cards aren't for you. Personally, however, I think it's important to have a credit card that you feel comfortable spending money on for when you're overseas. Mainly because you never know what might happen when you're away, and it can be useful to have access to more money than you actually have in your bank account in case of an emergency. For example, if you're travelling around, and especially in the USA, if you do actually need medical assistance and you need to call an ambulance, you might actually have to pay for it up front to get access to that healthcare, even if you do have insurance. Now medical care is particularly expensive all around the world, and you probably won't want to have to empty your bank account just to be able to pay for it. So this is basically why having a credit card is really useful in case of those emergencies, because you can basically just pay for it on a credit card and not worry about it draining your bank account, even though you will usually be able to claim it back from your travel insurance. I also think that it's actually much better to use credit cards for everyday spending, and I actually make all my purchases on a credit card rather than a debit card. And this is partly because having a credit card and paying it off each month improves your credit score, but also by using a credit card it gives you an extra level of security against fraud. So for me, having a travel credit card is an essential. Right, so as I touched on earlier, my two go-to travel credit cards have recently been discontinued. Now these were the Tandem and Aqua credit cards that both offered 0.5% cashback on all spending. But there are also no fees or charges for when using them overseas, so it's perfect as it meant you were getting cashback as well as missing out on those fees. But sadly, both of these cards have been discontinued, and unfortunately, at the time of this recording, there are no travel credit cards that also give you cashback. So that being said, let's look at the travel credit cards that are available today and are the best ones to go for. Now I just want to say one thing to remember with credit cards: it's always best to avoid withdrawing cash from an ATM with them, as almost all credit cards charge an additional fee for taking money out at an ATM. And as well as that, there's usually an additional interest rate slapped on top of that as well for every day that it's not paid back. If you're likely to use a lot of ATMs when you're away, there are better options out there than a credit card, and I'd personally look at getting a mobile bank as well or instead. So I'll leave a couple of links down below to some of my other videos going into that in a bit more detail. With that being said, let's get into looking at these credit cards. So the first on the list is the Halifax Clarity credit card. Now this card's been around for a long time and it's built up a really strong reputation over the years for its really good service. So it offers an assumed credit limit of £1,200, which will vary depending on your individual circumstances and your credit score. Now the card's got no annual fee, which means that it's completely free to use as long as you pay it off in full every single month. Now obviously there's an interest rate if you don't pay it off, and it's 19.9%, but to be honest I think it's completely irrelevant, because if you're planning on getting a credit card you should make sure that you pay it off every single month, because if you don't it will just damage your credit score and you'll have to pay ridiculous interest rates. And as long as you have a direct debit set up and you don't overspend, there should be no problems. But obviously, most importantly, this card has no additional fees for when using it abroad, and it also gives you pretty much the best exchange rate around. Now when it comes to withdrawing cash from an ATM, it is possible with this card, but I would personally avoid it, as there is an interest charge for every day that it's not paid back, at an interest rate of between 19.95 and 27.95%. So basically it's a great card for spending, but avoid withdrawing any cash. Now another great credit card option is the Santander Zero credit card. Now to be honest, this card's very similar to the Halifax Clarity, and it has the same assumed credit limit of £1,200, which again might vary depending on your circumstances and your credit score. And similarly, it has no annual fee, so as long as you pay it off you won't have to pay anything for having the card. But the only real difference is that it's got a slightly lower interest rate if you miss a payment or don't pay it off each month, and that interest rate is 18.9%. And similarly, when withdrawing cash, there's also no fee. However, you'll be charged 18.9% interest for every day it's not paid back. So in my opinion, I think these are the best two credit cards to go for if you're eligible. And when it comes to picking one over the other, they're basically the same, except the Halifax Clarity has built up a really strong reputation over the years of being the go-to travel credit card. Now this final credit card that I'm going to go into is actually targeting a slightly different market, as it's targeted at people with lower credit scores, and as long as you're earning over £8,000 a year, you stand a really good chance of being accepted. Now this card I'm talking about is the 118-118 Money Credit Card. So this card has a slightly lower assumed credit limit of £500, but it also has no annual fee. So again, if you pay it off every single month, you won't pay a penny for having the card. But the thing to be a bit wary of with this card is that it has a higher interest rate of 34%. So to put it simply, you basically just need to make sure you pay it off every single month to avoid that really high interest rate. But again, because it's a travel credit card, it's got no fees for when using it overseas, and it also gives you a great exchange rate on your spending. But also, when withdrawing money from an ATM, this card's actually quite good, as there's no fee for withdrawing cash from the ATM, but unlike the others, there's no additional fee that you're charged for every day that it's not paid back. And instead, it will just be added to your monthly bill, and as long as you pay it off in full, you'll avoid having to pay that 34% interest. But there we have it, that basically covers the best travel credit cards out there at the moment. Two great credit cards that will be ideal for most people, and then another that's good for people with slightly lower credit scores. But I just want to stress how important it is to pay off your credit card every single month in full, because if you don't, you'll usually have to incur additional interest fees, but also it just damages your credit score. Now the easiest way to make sure that you pay off your credit card is to simply set up a direct debit. Now you can usually do this really easily through your credit card app or online, and you should never apply for a credit card and use it as an excuse to overspend. But there we have it, those are my thoughts on the top travel credit cards out there at the moment in 2020. And if you did make it this far, thank you so much for watching, and if you found it helpful or interesting in any way, I'd really appreciate it if you could drop a like on the video, as it really helps me out. And also let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. But as always, if you haven't already, make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below and click that bell so you never miss a video. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram as well, I'll stick it on the screen now and in the link down below. But that does it for today guys, take it easy and keep saving.